Hello, BookTube. It is Tuesday morning. We have snow on the ground. Just got back from taking my 7-year-old little boy to the doctor, and he had to have a shot, so that ended up being less than a popular trip. So we're back home. I'm going to let him take the rest of the day off from school. And I thought we'd continue our library tour. But a few of you commented it might be time to shift to the science fiction and fantasy section for a little bit of a break. It's a little more difficult to film. There's a landing up here on the by the stairs. I don't know if I can do this. I can give you a general idea. It's a bit of a mess. This is my writing area, and then all up and down the way here. It's hard to do. They're science fiction books for the most part, fantasy books, pretty evenly divided, I would guess. So I'm not going to do the graphic novels to start with. I may later as I break everything, but I do have a few books up here that I'll start with, then I'll work down. You can even see what some of them are. So I start here. This is Arthurian Legends, an illustrated anthology selected and introduced by Richard Barber. Lovely thing. Here's the end papers. This is Littlefield Adams and Company. And when did this come out? This came out, printed in Great Britain and first published in the United States of America in 1979. So it's a travel through the, you see it's got this double column. Not everybody's a fan of that. Usually doesn't bother me much. So, let's see if I can find some illustrations. So those of you that are into the Arthurian sort of whole issue there, might be fun for you. This one's a pretty well-known volume, or used to be. This is Arthur Rex, a legendary novel by Thomas Berger, or Berger. I'm not quite sure how you pronounce that. Old thing, it's been around. You still see it at yard sales. It's Delacorte Press, and it is from 1978. Good Lord, it's been a long time since I read this. So, not an uncommon thing, novel about King Arthur. You'll see plenty in these collections. Actually, one right here I probably could just add to the list. It just hasn't been added to the shelf. I've got these in paperback, but I just found Jack White's The Sky Stone. It's a big old series, the Camelud Chronicles, and this is in the first volume of that. So, yeah, there's plenty of these Arthurian type fictional treatments. This is This is Castles by Alan Lee. It's written by David Day, designed and edited by David Larkin. A lot of you will recognize the artist, Alan Lee, from the Tolkien books. This is Bantam Books, and this came out when? 1984. Absolutely lovely thing just to look through. And it's all about, let's see if I get something that'll... The art is pretty distinctive, I think. I mean, you pretty much know who it is when you see it. This next one here is D.B. Dobson and J. Taylor, Rhymes of Robin Hood, an introduction to the English outlaw. This is faded really badly. Somebody had it there, got sun damage or whatever. That's the cover. Quite an interesting book. An introduction to the English outlaw. University of Pittsburgh Press. This came out in 1976. So you have studies in the various poetry and songs about Robin Hood. This next thing is The World of Robert Jordan's The Wheel of Time, Robert Jordan and Teresa Patterson. I like these sort of collections that are put together once the series becomes really popular. The artwork in this is just wonderful. Some of you will remember these covers. It's worth it. The book's worth getting just for that. I mean, besides all the information it has. So, this was 1997, Bill Fawcett and Associates. And, yeah, just quite lovely. A lot of interesting stuff if you're a fan of the books. Then I have 3 of these visual companions. This one's the first one is Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Rings, ultimate movie companion to the peoples and places of Middle Earth. Jude Fisher. And this, they're going to make it difficult to track things down. They don't. It's a way to relive the movies a little bit. So I have that one, which is Fellowship. I have Two Towers. They did a series of these on The Hobbit too. I never really bothered to track those down. I probably should have. Who knows, I may run into them somewhere. And then the last one is Return of the King. And I might as well grab this up here. I've got this little, I've got a single volume here. It's just stuck in a corner of The Hobbit. A little leather thing that I like the feel of it. And I've got the same thing, the only difference really on this Hobbit is it doesn't have the gold. Little paper leather wrapped box. So here with the Return of the King, give you a feel for what they look like on the inside. So they're handy. Hobbit, Fellowship, Two Towers, and Return of the King. So you'll notice that I have a few copies of these books. These books were a big deal to me when I was a young man. I read them in the 1970s. College student we knew, my family knew, introduced me to them. I still have the paperbacks from back in those days. I can put these up later. So let's get into some more Lord of the Rings. So it's going to be a theme here for a little while. I get a little carried away. I don't have anywhere near the books that are published now. So actually, I think I missed this one here. So this was a Christmas present, so it's been shown on this channel before. This is a Middle-earth Traveler, Sketches from Bag End to Mordor by John Howe. He has a good Instagram presence. He's had a documentary on YouTube, I believe. Love his art. Who did this? Might help you out, because I think you can still get this. Yeah, it's Houghton Mifflin Harcourt, Boston and New York, 2018. So he did work on the movies, and quite a good book. This one's a really good book. I was very happy to get it. So then this is Lord of the Rings Location Guidebook, extended edition by Ian Brody, a paperback, odd size. This is 2004. Of course, you have that wonderful landscape in New Zealand where all this is set. And this will just tell you if you're going to travel there. And am I right? Is the World Science Fiction Convention going to be in New Zealand coming up? I think so. Anybody knows, let me know in the comments below, or I could just go look it up myself now that I've had the thought. This next one, a little sun faded on the spine here, unfortunately, is the Tolkien Companion by J.E.A. Tyler. This St. Martin's Press, New York. So it's a little guide. So you start right out. Accursed Years. Anything interesting? Elder Days. Istari. All sorts of stuff. Then on the reference line again, this is the Complete Guide to Middle-earth from Hobbit to the Silmarillion. So it tells you that this was done quite a while ago. We've had a few books since. Every character, every place, everything. Here is truly a master key to Middle-earth. The Del Rey book, Ballantine Books, New York. And this is the second printing, April 1978. So, let me see here. Give you an idea what the inside looks like. Moving right along, a book you'll always see a bookmark in, because every once in a while I'll just pick a section and sit there and read it. Here's the great man himself, J.R. Tolkien, the Silmarillion. Had this forever. This is Houghton Mifflin Company, Boston, 1977. First printing, first American edition. One of those books that someone like myself, anyway, can return to. Here's another little, these explanatory or even exploratory little volumes that deal with Tolkien and his world. This is Tolkien and the Silmarillion by Clyde S. Kilby. More sun damage. A lot of times when you're buying books, it's something you got to watch for, but in this case, the only way I was going to get this was like this. Harold Shaw Publishers, Wheaton, Illinois. And it's just deals with the greater themes, I guess. And here we have J.R. Tolkien, edited by Christopher Tolkien. The Children of Hurin. Now downstairs in the first set of bookshelf tours, that's where I keep Tolkien's Beowulf. I don't have it up here with this. So this is illustrated by Alan Lee, who we just saw with the Castles volume. So a lot of you will have, that'll be the world you know, Alan Lee, and they are wonderful illustrations, font illustrations. And otherwise, I think they have some color ones in here, don't they? If I remember right. Yeah. Very nice. And an old, really beat up copy of Unfinished Tales by J.R. Tolkien, edited with introduction, commentary, index, and maps by Christopher Tolkien. This thing could probably be replaced quite easily. The end paper is just printed map right on the cardboard itself. When did this paperback? In 1982. So yeah, I wouldn't mind a hardback of this. Then again, another one in pretty rough shape because it's been loved for so long. That's my story and I'm sticking to it. Tolkien, Tree and Leaf, Smith and Wotton Major, and The Homecoming of Beornoth. I love those Scandinavian, Germanic, and all those names. This is Unwin Books. You can tell the paper's getting a little, I call it tobacco stain color. This Unwin Books edition's from 1975. It originally came out in 64. I've had many copies of these stories, especially Smith of Witten Major. Then here's The Inkling, a group of writers whose literary fantasies still fire the imagination of all those who seek a truth beyond reality. Nothing like selling that, huh? C.S. Lewis, J.R.R. Tolkien, Charles Williams, and Their Friends by Humphrey Carpenter, a name we'll run into again. So The Inklings was the writing group. This is first American edition from 1979. It was originally put out by George Allen and Unwin in 78. So it would be nice to have the first British edition, wouldn't it? So then we have Tolkien's Art, A Mythology for England by Jane Chance. This is a revised edition of that. University Press of Kentucky, and this was published in 2001. So you have The Critic as Monster, The King Under the Mountain, Tolkien's children's story, The Christian King, Tolkien fairy stories, The Germanic Lord, Tolkien's medieval parodies, The Lord of the Rings, Tolkien's epic, and The Creator of the Silmarils, Tolkien's Book of Lost Tales. So just an academic type study. And then we're going to get right back to Humphrey Carpenter here. He edited and selected, with the help of Christopher Tolkien, the letters of J.R.R. Tolkien. I'm always digging back into these, and usually takes two bookmarks because I like to see what the background is, any notes on them. This is Houghton Mifflin Company, Boston, 1981. And this is the first American edition of that. So, recommend them strongly. I think these are still in print somewhere, I'm sure. This is Meditations on Middle-earth, New Writing on the Worlds of J.R.R. Tolkien by Orson Scott Card, Ursula K. Le Guin, Raymond E. Feist, Terry Pratchett, Charles DeLynn, George Railroad Martin, and more. So, this is edited by Karen Haber, very capable editor. A Byron Priest book, St. Martin's Griffin, New York. And this is from 2002, and it's in memory of Poole Anderson, another writer who I very much enjoy. Then here you'll see I have a few things like this too. This is an odd little volume. I read it last year. It matches the covers on a set of paperback Tolkiens I have from back in the day. This is Understanding Tolkien and Lord of the Rings by William Reddy. Very tobacco-y looking pages. This thing is terrible. It's my opinion, it's terrible. But, I mean, I just have it to have it, right? This is a copy of The Hobbit. It's a movie cover. Have this from my daughter, who looks like she's going to start reading it. I hope so. You can't push stuff too hard. She just finished all the Harry Potter and went through. She's 11. She went through the Harry Potter set twice this last summer, and I always wonder how many wonderful readers are coming to the world of reading by Harry Potter. I think it's great. But I think she's reading Hunger Games now. Hopefully she'll get to The Hobbit someday and she'll love it. If not, oh well. She'll have her own stuff. Here's an old hardback of The Hobbit. I don't know where the dust jacket went. It probably got eaten. So this is the 36th printing, copyright 1966. So not of any collectible value, but a nice little volume just the same. Then we begin a lot of the sets. This first Lord of the Rings set is Modern Classics by Collins. I like these covers. These get a little blocky. So here's Lord of the Rings. Here's the Two Towers. Here's the Return of the King. So pretty nice. I like it. What I need is more of this, right? This next one, I've actually taken this next set out of the box just to try to preserve the box a little bit. It has that art like on that book I just showed you that I wasn't a very big fan of. So I have it stuck over here in the back, but I'll show you. So here is The Hobbit. These came out when? And these would not take much more reading before they just... Ballantine Books, New York. And they're saying this one's 1966, the second printing of June. So these are how I started reading these things. This is the Fellowship of the Ring. So these are Houghton Mifflin. See the cover there with that art? There's the Two Towers. And then there is the Return of the King. They got the number up the top. So yeah, these are sort of fun. And then another set I have that was the one I owned most of the time. This was $1.50 when it came out. This is the authorized version. This is Ballantine. $1.50. Can you believe it? When did these come out? This is the 52nd printing of 1974. It tells you how popular these are. There's that. And I kept the other ones in this box. Sort of psychedelic looking, huh? So you have Fellowship, Two Towers, and then the Return of the King. Those seem to sit looser in the box. Love that picture of Tolkien of the pipe. Yeah, I don't know why they sit better in the box than the other set does. But the other set's really tight, so I'm afraid of breaking the box. So I keep them separate. Then we have, again, Smith of Wootton Major, but this one with Farmer Giles of Ham. And illustrations by Pauline Diana Baines. This is a Ballantine book, New York. And this came out in 1967. No, excuse me, this is the 11th printing in 1975. This is a Brothers Hildebrand cover, just like that. So I always like their stuff. If those of you who are sort of Shannara fans would remember these illustrators for the first publication of the books, I think. I like this style of art on these that she did. And moving right along, another Tolkien, Sir Gawain and the Green Knight, Pearl and Sir Orfeo. This is a newer Del Rey, well, newer than most of my other stuff. And this was the 49th printing in 1980. So, yeah. Nothing collectible there either. Then, We have a photo novel, J.R.R. Tolkien's The Lord of the Rings. Those of you who remember these. I got some of these for Star Trek too. So these came out 1979. So you can see there. This sort of thing it is. It's just from the animated. Fun little thing to look at. Now we're going to get into these adult fantasy. And this by Ballantine Books. There's a whole series of these. They're sort of a reaction to the Tolkien phenomena. This is James Branch Cable, The Cream of the Jest, and the introduction by Lynn Carter. You'll notice a little symbol up here for these. And there's some. The back's actually pretty interesting too. So these are, they're reprinting these. So this is The Cream of the Jest, The Lineage of Litchfield, Two Comedies of Evasion, James Branch Cable, introduction by Lynn Carter, Ballantine Books. And then, so this is published in, first printing September 1971, but it actually was the copyright, it's 1917. So they're going back and grabbing what they can to try to sell fantasy while fantasy was hot. There's another one of these, The Last Unicorn, a novel by Peter S. Beagle. A lot of folks still read this one. Again, it has this symbol here. There's the back. Lovely artwork. This one is this one is the 7th U.S. printing of 1974. Some of these are starting to, papers turning color. That's the problem with these. They were not expensively printed. Again, another adult fantasy, The Dream Quest of an Unknown Kadath by H.P. Lovecraft. August Dearlith says, the finest weird fantasy ever written. Edited with an introduction by Lynn Carter again, of course. He was central to this whole project. And this is 1970. Now we get a run of E.R. Edison. Fantastic covers on these. This is the Mezzentian Gate. Then we have, and these are Ballantine Books, A Fish Dinner in Mnemosyne. So when you were hungry for fantasy and the Tolkien cupboard was bare, Mistress of Mistresses, you went to these adult fantasy, these reprints, these reissues, and then of course his most famous book for E.R. Edison, and it's in pretty rough shape. This is The Worm of Ouroboros. You can see it's just worn down, but it is a product of its time. I don't know if anybody's reprinted these since. I would think they probably have. Of all the reprint volumes, his was one of the more popular. They have these illustrations throughout. So that was E.R. Edson. Then transverse on this shelf, I just got this, Patrick Rothfuss, the Slow Regard of Silent Kings, illustrated by Nate Tyler. I have not read this. I have read The Name of the Wind. This is Daw Books. This is the 6th printing of the first paperback of 2015. So it does have illustrations. And then a collection of short stories by Mercedes Lackey that I have not gotten to, but I love these bean books. If I find them, for the most part, I will grab them. And I'm sort of looking forward to seeing some of her stuff. So that's sort of an odd little way to get through some of this. We'll continue on with plenty of fantasy at first here, some series. The fantasy extends back, then some horror, and then we'll get into the science fiction a little more heavily. So I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope all is well. Thank you, BookTube.